Awesome. Okay, so Justin Maddahi is back by popular demand. We're actually thinking about kicking off season 2 with him. We'll see, but I think this will be EP1 because we did EP1 of season 1 with you, Justin. And the funny thing is that episode did better than the rest, and it had no momentum. So you are back by popular demand.
Oh man, that's great. That's great. Hopefully, I can start off season 2 the winner again too.
You got a lot of pressure. You better drop some bombs.
Oh, I will. I will. I always do.
Just to reorient and introduce you again for people who didn't watch episode 1. Obviously, we hope there's people who didn't who are fresh to the podcast. Justin, you and your father, family business, started Oral Essentials. I don't remember the year, but you can fill that in.
Yeah.
And the brand on Amazon is pronounced Lumineux or Lumineux. What would you say is the proper pronunciation here so people don't butcher you?
So if you're in France, it's Lumineux, but normally we just call it Lumineux. So
Lumineux.
either one is fine. Luminex is not the correct pronunciation, but that's what 90% of people do. But it's okay. It's a tricky name.
I was looking at your keyword ranking on Helium 10, and there was a fair amount of options that people were typing in. It was pretty funny.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Lumineux, both appropriate. Skin whitening, natural skin whitening toothpaste, skin whitening strips, and you guys are absolutely just freaking crushing it across the board, and that's why we want to pick your brain today.
Yeah, well, thank you so much for having me again. Very excited to talk to you both again. You know, me and Ian stay in touch a couple times a year, 3-4 times a year, and it's good to hop back on the podcast.
So then what's new? Give me the 1-year roundup.
Yeah. So we had another pretty solid year. I would say that it's been more of an omni-channel focus last year. You know, we anniversaried at Walmart. So it was our 1 year being in Walmart. Walmart has been a really great retailer for us, which is super interesting.
Like stores itself?
Yeah, stores. Yeah, national stores. And then we got into Target March of last year, which has also been another great partner for us. And we're doing line expansion now this year. So we're very excited about retail. And I think like one of the important things for Amazon sellers to think about is how do you get D2C, retail, and Amazon all working together? Because I think as, you know, Amazon matures, it's becoming increasingly harder to stand out and harder to get that competitive advantage. But in retail, there's limited real estate. There's only so many products that can get in. And if you can perform there, you're kind of separated from the other brands that are online. You know, anyone can come and sell a product now. They can go on TikTok Shop, create a product. They can create a website and sell a product. They can launch on Amazon. But retail is really the place where it separates like the boys from the men, I would say, for sure.
So what was your journey to, how do you call Walmart and be like, yo, what's up, Walmart? We want to be in your shelves. I'm sure there's a story there on both of those.
Yeah. So you can't really call up Walmart and do it. Brent, who's our VP of sales, did an amazing job. Very persistent, very relentless. I would say the best place to meet retailers is the Expo East and West Show, Natural Product Show. That's where they're roaming around, trying out products. Walmart will be there. Target to some degree is there. You know, Whole Foods, Sprouts, all of those kind of natural stores are there. That's a great place to meet retailers and get your foot in the door. You know, another thing is, and this is the advantage of Amazon, is these retailers see your sales and they are really actively checking Amazon sales. You know, what really put like Target and Walmart over the edge was our BSR ranking on Amazon. We showed them all these D2C metrics. They're like, we don't know if it's real. But once they saw the BSR and how consistent it was, that was a huge selling point. Along with that, you also need to get a retail broker, which you can meet at the natural product shows as well. You know, MPG is the one we use. They're great. Lots of great brokers out there. It just kind of depends on the category. You know, some brokers are better at certain categories than others. But I'd say those three, plus a lot of patience, because it takes a lot of time to get into retail, depending on the category.
And do you think there was anybody that's going to assume that they knocked on your door, or can you like put that to bed, that people weren't knocking on your door, even though you're a big seller on Amazon, you still had to hustle, kind of a thing?
Yeah, no one was knocking on our door, especially since it's the oral care category. It's not a hot product. If you're in food and beverage, it is possible. There are stories where the retailers come and knock on your door. So it is category dependent. A lot of advice, and like people don't realize, is the category has such a influential impact on the advice and like what strategy you should take. So, if you're in like skincare or oral care or kind of commodity based things, skincare to some degree is not commodity based and to some degree is, you're going to have to fight for getting shelf space. But if you're in food and beverage, everyone is looking for new and different constantly, because like for some reason, it's hard for brands to really stick the landing there, and they get hot for a second and then they disappear. So the retailers have to go and find the next hot product, milk them for as long as possible, and then throw them out once they're done. It's interesting. Yeah.
Well, I think it's interesting too. It's like, that's how you keep variety within the retail store, right? Like,
yeah,
my cereal aisle is constantly changing with new things for me to go browse on. It brings me back to the store. So that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, for sure. Cereal is one of those hot product sections where there's been a lot of innovation there, disruption, but it's still like the big sellers, Kellogg's and, all the ones, Cocoa Puffs, all that are still maybe 150 times bigger than the biggest disruptive cereal brand. Like Magic Spoon cereal or something like that.
Yeah.
So then how hard was it? What would you say your let's get into retail conversation started versus landing a actual like national presence like a Walmart?
Yeah, I would say the hardest part is staying in the stores is actually the hardest part. The second hardest part is getting into the stores. So in terms of getting into the stores, there's a lot of paperwork you have to fill out. There's a lot of planning, a lot of meetings with the buyer. You definitely need a broker for it, because there's just so many strategic and tactical things that you have to do, of like positioning yourself in a certain way where you'll be an incremental value to the category. Because the last thing the buyer wants to do is take out, like, let's say a SKU of a Crest, for example, that is a high performing, and then you come in and you're a dud, and they gave away such valuable retail space from a already proven performer for you, and then you don't do it. So there is that aspect of showing that you're new and different and that you will be the future of the category. That's a very important part of it. Then there's making sure you have the right placement in the store as well. So like your eye line as well, and then trying to get what's called a brand block, which is all the products together. So for us, mouthwash, toothpaste, and strips, having them together, because it's also like a sea of confusion, those retail stores. There's like, for example, in oral care, it's like 50 SKUs of Crest, 50 SKUs of Colgate, and then there's like 4 random brands with like 1 SKU each. So it's very easy to get lost in those retail stores. So there's a lot of things that you need to like go to the stores, look at it, kind of making sure your packaging stands out in retail, which is very different than Amazon. The packaging standing out in retail is a completely different ball game because of also the natural light. So there's a lot of, I would say there's a huge learning curve, but I think it's like as an evolution from an Amazon brand that you like have seen. Mighty Patch has went through that evolution where they were an Amazon brand and now they're a retail brand, and they were acquired by Church and Dwight, and they're killing it. There's a lot of brands like that that are coming out, like starting on Amazon and then making the correct steps to be successful in retail. That's a proven strategy that works time and time again, because Amazon is the best first place to start. And once you go into retail and you have brand awareness, it becomes a very profitable channel for you. And it's a great jumping off point.
It's the opposite of what used to be. Amazon was where it's where retail went after. It was like, okay, Colgate finally got on Amazon. Crest finally got on Amazon. Where now it's become a breeding ground for like almost a farm league, like a AA league coming in and farming out new products, seeing how they do. It's almost a giant survey platform, right, Justin? It's like, how is it doing? What about financing? Like a seller that's at a $5 million run, $5 million revenue on Amazon, modest, not, like a small mom and pop $5 million seller, is retail a joke idea for them on the finance on their balance sheet, or is it?
Oh yeah. So there are financing options you can get. You can get, on your accounts receivable from retailers, you can get financing at pretty good rates. That is something that's still out there. I would say like trying to get a loan from Amazon these days is the APRs are way too high, but trying to get a loan on orders from retail is still is a good way to do it. 100%. Yeah. And I think like you also need to think about it if you're at 5 million. I don't know how many retailers would let you in. I think you need to be more in the 20 to $30 million range for retail. You still have, if you're like in the $5 million range, that is a plateau there for sure. As there's different plateaus in online, 5 million, 25, 50 million, 100, 200 million. Those are places where you can get stuck and like stay there for a long time. So you need to break through that real first plateau and go from like 5 to 25. Then I would say that you can handle retail to some degree, but you need to also have, proven top of funnel awareness channels as well. So you can't just go in there thinking that you're going to just go in there and sell the product because it's a good product. One of them is, am I going to stand out at shelf? That will help you. But you need to also be able to drive traffic and have brand awareness at shelf, because in retail, your hurdle rate, which is like how many products you need to sell per week at each store, they increase it every year. So it becomes harder and harder for you to hit the hurdle rate. So it's like a catch-22 almost, where which one are you going to do? Get in retail first, or make sure you have the proven marketing channel? So I would say as long as you have like either paid media like Meta ads going or influencer program, TV, that would help you a lot with retail. But if you're like an Amazon PPC with like organic ranking strategy, you're going to have a tough time going to retail for sure. So in that case, I would focus more on Meta ads, influencer marketing, YouTube, whatever is for your category and your demographic is.
To break that 5 million, get to that 25, get yourself to that point where there's enough middle of funnel, top of funnel brand awareness where you can actually close a deal with a retailer and maybe even drive bodies into the store who are recognizing your brand.
Yeah. And like for me, if I were to do it over again or like tell myself, I would say like really focus on like one retail store is the key. You don't want to get into too many. So choose one chain. The best ones, in my opinion, are Walmart, Target are the top two. Then if you're like a beauty brand, it's Sephora or Ulta. And then for natural, it's Whole Foods, Sprouts. And depending on your category, CVS or Walgreens. I think CVS is a better chain. But just choose one of them, prove it out there, go to another one in a different, there's a health, there's a drug, there's beauty, and then there's mass. So choose one from each. And I would say for like a natural product, starting at Whole Foods and Sprouts, I think is a very low risk, high reward proposition, because you get that acceptance, even like an Erewhon, if you're in Los Angeles, that's a good place to start and just see how you're doing at retail. That was one of the first stores we got into. We saw that with our target demo, like we could be number one in store. So that's another way to do it too. Well, we chose a different route.
That kind of bites it off for me a little better, because it seems super overwhelming. And I'm just thinking with that $5 million mom and pop, I'm trying to put this in bite sizes.
Yeah.
What about small retailers? Like I think 2 years ago, Justin, when we were first like starting to work together, I actually saw one of your products in a super small whole natural food store in rural Pennsylvania. I was like, dude, Justin's products here. So wasn't that kind of a little bit of a step up, those small retailers?
Yeah, so those are like the natural mom and pop stores. Those are good to have. I would say still try and get into a chain. There's Wegmans as well as a great chain, Mom's Market. You'll know like anywhere between like the 25 to like 150 door chains. Just choose one of those if you really want to be careful. Start with one of those. really figure out all the different things that you can do in store, how you're performing, really understand the channel, and then slowly grow from there. I don't recommend starting with mom and pop because they don't have the systems in place of like, if your product goes out of stock, you might not know. And you're like, why did the selling drop off? Is there something wrong with their marketing? And it's as simple as like the product is no longer at shelf, you know? So you want to work with someone that has processes in place. And usually the chains have that because that's the only way you can grow in retail is like you have to have processes and systems and be professional.
Makes sense.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, it's interesting, man, because we work with brands that, and like your ballpark, this 5 million to 20 million. We've got brands that are doing 1 to 2, and they're already like looking into going to some of these chains, not Walmart, Target, not the general or the mass ones that you were talking about, but they're looking to do it, and it's challenging because they've got to keep them satisfied, right? There's hunger at those stores, and if you're not, they're going to test you out. And then if there is demand, you've got to maintain it and grow it. And they're going to start rolling you out. And there's a lot of challenges associated with that. Financing is where Ian kind of started this conversation, but the other one is not spreading yourself too thin, so that you're not. It's like it's appealing, I think, as a seller. It's intuitive as a seller. Like, well, I want to be everywhere, right? But if you're doing that, then you're making yourself so available that shoppers may not be concentrated in and around like your one channel that you want to keep healthy.
Being everywhere will definitely kill you if you don't have like finance backing because there's just so much demand at these retailers and just you have to perform so well to stay in that like, and I think the best example is the Honest Company. They were everywhere and like, look at their stock price. It's like gone into the toilet because they just relied on Jessica Alba, which was great for retail, but they had no other brand awareness channels or anything else besides that. And look where it got them. They were hot for a while and then they disappeared. So you need to really make sure you have a unique selling proposition. Your branding is on point. Your packaging is on point. You have good relationships with the retailers, all that sort of stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. It's interesting. Yeah. And Honest is a good one. And the other brand that comes to mind for me is Bulletproof. So Bulletproof produces like a lot of really high end, super healthy. And that's a brand I like. Like I use their product. I can't get them in Whole Foods anymore.
Yeah.
And that just seemed to have just like happened out of nowhere. They still sell the coffee, but not the bars.
Yeah, it's super interesting. You know, there's also this like danger of becoming a trend too. And usually trends go up and down and disappear. So you need to really, in your marketing, really logically explain to people why they need to do it and have it in a way that they can do in the long term.
Oh my God. Atkins diet, dude. Right? Do you remember the Atkins diet like 10 years ago?
Yeah.
Those bars came out. No one cares.
Yeah, it's crazy. That's the problem with food and beverage though. Food and beverage, you'll disappear unless you really have something truly disruptive or your marketing really convinces people. You know, like for example, this carnivore diet that's going around. I know a lot of people that are doing it. You're going to see in 10 years, it's going to be a very small subset of what it is because a lot of these things are not sustainable over time. You know, like only eating meat, like I love eating meat and all this sort of stuff, but like you can't only do one thing for long periods of time, you know? And I think that's kind of what makes our product special is like we've blended so many different types of ways of thinking, whether it's oil pulling, the science focus of mainstream brands and the natural ingredients of like natural brands. And you put in one package that you don't need to really change anything you're doing. You just put it in there and you don't have to think about it again. That's what you want to be. You want to be a commodity, but feel like a disruptive brand, I think is the perfect way to like continue to grow and have that newness, feeling new and different, but not be a trend, you know?
Yeah, that's interesting though. So oil, like talking about oil pulling, like that's my wife's really into this right now. And she's trying to get me into it. And I looked it up, right? I looked up the history, I looked up its efficacy, and I'm like, I don't need to add this to my life. Right. This is my choice. Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
But that's because I brush my teeth. I still
come aboard.
I know, right? Well, like I don't know if I'm missing something right there. But the other piece is like it is new, right? So it's a new thing for me to try and shift my lifestyle to be healthier or whatever. Whether it's true or not, I don't know. That's why it's a trend. But I find it interesting. So like I didn't know you guys added an oil pulling product to your line.
I know our product. So our product started with coconut oil and all of that as one of our ingredients. The problem with oil pulling is that at that concentration, it becomes antibacterial. So it's not actually a long-term sustainable. It's like the same as using Listerine in the long term,
Right.
even though it's natural ingredients, because coconut oil at a certain amount is just a purely antibacterial equivalent of putting Purell in your mouth. And then also the fact that you're doing it for 10 to 20 minutes is not sustainable for a consumer. You know, it might be for 6 months to a year, but then eventually they're like, I'm literally going to spend 20 minutes on my oral care routine, swishing in my mouth, you know? So we created a product that has all the ingredients at the right concentration and actually has clinical studies, you know? So there's this thing of like being time tested, which Ayurvedic practices are, but you know, science has evolved so much and that there's so much more refinement you can do to these ideas that like just because something was being done for 3,000 years doesn't mean it doesn't mean it's good or bad, you know?
Right. It doesn't mean it's
You have to-
optimized either, right? To your, which is what
Yeah.
you're saying. Yeah.
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 So like it's the same with the carnivore diet. Like, yeah, that's been around for so long. But nowadays you have so much more like mental load and so much more calculations. Is it right not to have any carbs or anything like that? So I think there's just so many factors and people just want to make things black or white and they're really not. You know, you really have to look at things with like a fine tooth comb and analyze things in multiple different viewpoints.
Yeah. That's interesting, man. All right, cool. I'm going to share this podcast with my wife so she can hear that, just that one
Okay.
bit. I'm not spending
That's good.
10 minutes for pulling in the morning. And I'm like, you know, I'm not going to be silent.
Yeah, it's another trend, you know, and oral care definitely has those. There was the charcoal trend before, there's a purple toothpaste trend. They get hot for 2 years and then they like fall off a cliff like you'll never imagine. And that's kind of like, you never want to really be a trend. You want to create a movement that will last. And that's not just marketing. There's a product aspect to it where you need to have a product that fits in seamlessly into the person's life and doesn't add any complications. You know, that's how I always thought about it.
Yep. I got a question for you, man. It's kind of going back. So like shifting back. So we're talking about these channels. We're talking about financing. You mentioned the importance of a broker, right? As being one of those things. And I've got like some of my closest friends sell like a turmeric beverage. It's got pepperine in it, which is an adaptogen, which helps absorption for the curcumin and all this stuff. And when they went down that journey, like it was a really, really brutal journey for them because everybody who is a broker says that they're the greatest broker in the world. And there's really no way to tell. And then, you know, if I'm the retailer, I'm ignorant. Like, I don't know what I don't know. I'm really reliant on the broker to kind of help me out with this. Like, how do you do this? Like, it's not just pick the broker, but like, how do you collectively learn, like with the broker, like what's the best thing to do and start to roadmap this journey? Like, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah. So I think there's a lot of cases where this happens in marketing, sales, and all this sort of stuff. What I found to be the best is number one, to immerse yourself into the field and not make any decisions the first couple of months. Gather a lot of information from people and kind of see what are the consistencies that you're hearing across multiple different brokers, number one, and then what are the differences? And then really, like, I think another important factor is like the brokers have to like love your product as much as your company loves your product and you love your product. So if you don't see that love and excitement about the product, automatically throw them out. They're going to be a waste of time. They're not going to put in the effort. For sales, you need people that are, you know, extremely passionate about your product. Other things I would recommend is like talking to the brands and making sure that these brokers have worked with emerging brands before, you know, brands similar to your size and have taken it up to a certain level. And I think those are the most important things, making sure you have synergy with the group. But it's like the same with marketing agencies. Everyone is going to tell you they're great. The only way to really understand is to like talk to a bunch of them, have them do audits, get a bunch of like strategic documents from them for free. You know, any agency that doesn't do a work up front is a waste of time, in my opinion, too, because, you know, the brand is always taking the most amount of risk out of everyone. They should also get the most amount of reward. So agencies, the least they can do is come up with a strategy document and how they want to approach it and what they think is best for you. And then you sign up with a broker and you do it as a pilot, 3 to 6 months. You keep their neck to the fire, and you see how they perform. And if they don't work, you go on to the next one, So there will probably be some turnover in the beginning. We had a ton until you end up with kind of the broker that's right for you and will take you all the way there. And there's also sometimes like brokers can only take you to a certain place and you have to go on to the next one. So you have to be willing to make those hard decisions. You have to be willing to not have any fixed ideas or say like, oh, these are the guys. I've done that a lot of times where I'm like, oh, this is our marketing agency. And then you see that there's certain issues that you run into in the end, and they're not your marketing agency. They're your marketing agency up until this X in revenue, or up until this point where you need to bring it internal, or there's a multitude of factors. So just being open-minded and knowing that you might have to get rid of them to go to a new broker, and just being persistent. There's a lot of persistence. This is not like the most, retail is like a place where you can go on the internet like D2C and go on Twitter and read a lot about it and understand it. There's like a few people on Twitter, like I for Retail on Twitter is great. He really breaks down things well. He's a good key opinion leader, but very far less than D2C and Amazon.
Yeah.
It's funny because it's the most established and oldest form of retail we have, and we know the least about it. Because
they want to keep it that way too.
It's kind of
so lucrative,
right? It's a good old boys club too. It's like it's been Kraft, Kellogg, General Mills. It's like that's kind of the good old boys club. And you guys come in and you're like, well, how do we get in? How do I get into this like clubhouse and hang out with these guys? So you're figuring it out. So that. Yeah. I want to pivot just for the sake of time. I gotta throw in some TikTok stuff. We have to throw in some influencer stuff. So how much, last call we had, it was really a big part of your strat and something you talked a lot about. How much in the last year have you been involved in the influencer world?
Yeah. So starting January 1st, I sent a memo to the entire company that we are not doing anything on TikTok. It's a complete waste of time for us, which I know might not be music to your ears. We spent a year chasing the TikTok, golden bullet, silver bullet. And what we found for our category is the only way to really be successful is you need to have false advertising claims. So for example, High Smile, which blew up on TikTok and is now a shell of itself, had an instant whitening with their purple toothpaste, and they were turning the meat from brown to white and bananas to white and all this sort of stuff. Obviously that didn't last, but that's the level of claims that the consumer is looking for at TikTok. Guru Nanda, the oil pulling brand, is talking about reversing cavities, which you cannot do. So I would say there's a product market fit with TikTok, and we didn't have it. And sometimes you need to look yourself in the mirror and like, will I work in this channel or will I not? Make it very black and white if you've been going after it for a while, which we have. And I looked over our brand and I was like, this is just a complete waste of time for us. The only part that I'm willing to continue on is getting the content and using it for meta ads. So that's the only part that we are continuing is we work with these TikTok shop influencers because their content is better and using it. And am I willing to re-explore TikTok? Yeah. Would I put a lot of resources in there? No way,
But was it a means to an end? What did it help you? Like you talked about earlier, like it helped you get your start. It kind of got you to where you are now, but it isn't keeping you there. And it's not going to get you to where you want to go, obviously.
No, I would say the Instagram influencers got us.
That's
got
right.
our start.
Okay.
Yeah, TikTok was kind of the second channel that we were thinking to break into, but never really panned out for us. Instead, we kind of pivoted towards paid meta. We doubled down on what has worked for us, and that seems to be a much better bet. But it is true. What gets you there won't get you to where you want to go. That's 100% a true thing, and we've experienced that, and we are still continuing to experience that as we have such high goals for ourselves in retail, and we know influencer marketing is not going to get us there for retail. We need to have other channels built out in order to do that and refine our brand more. So it's like also you have to balance that, like doubling down on what's working for you, and also with that, hey, this was great for us, we'll continue it, but we need to move resources somewhere else because like we've maxed out this channel, you know.
So channels are what they are, and you can't forever, especially advertising media channels, you can't always rely on that one channel. If it gets you to if it gets you from 5 million to 15, and you have a great 3, 4, 6 months a year, you can't next year think that's gonna repeat this year. We're gonna do the same channel. We're gonna get from 15 to 50. You can't always do that, is what you're saying.
Yeah. So the best way to think about it is there's a certain amount of new customers you can get from a channel. So I think for like Meta ads, there's probably 5 to 10 million customers if you're really good that you can extract out of that channel. For influencer marketing, depending on your category, it could be a couple million to, like, if you're a clothing brand, you can get 20 to 30 million people like Fashion Nova and Pretty Little Thing and all those companies. So you need to look at your category, and it takes a bit of understanding, but overall channels degrade over time unless you really do a revamp of your branding, creative, or messaging. So you can't really, if you're going to do the same thing, you're going to get deteriorating results over time, and you're going to have to depend on repeat customer rates and all that other stuff in order to kind of keep you afloat. But if you are putting in the resources to constantly refining and tinkering, you can lower the CPA, but it's a lot more effort than you would expect, you know, to kind of figure out those optimizations. You need to really be analytics driven and really focus on driving results that can be scalable. You know, it's a tricky thing that you can do something in a small test, it works super well, and then you put it and you do it for everything, and then it all goes to shit. So there's it's not a straightforward, you can't have linear logic with it at all.
So what worked in 2018 that works today? What worked in 2020 that works today? What's not going anywhere?
So influencer marketing, I think, is a proven channel that works 100%. I don't think it has, for certain categories, the scale that a lot of brands think it does. You know, for us, it had I would say like a medium to high scale. You know, it got us to over $50 million. I'd say that's a really successful channel. You know, that's what you want out of a channel. Meta ads, you know, it kind of disappeared for a little bit after iOS 14. It's fully back.
I heard another channel. I heard the AI is really good on their ads.
Yeah, it is. It is. It is really good.
What do you mean by the AI? What do you mean by the AI?
They launched an AI last year for their ad engine that is really smart on showing the right ad to the right customer.
Yeah, so it's machine learning. Basically, what they did is they had that Facebook and Instagram shop, which everyone thought was stupid. But how I think they thought about it is they're like, this is a way for us to get purchases and kind of build out a model that can predict how people respond and what how they purchase. And they only needed a certain amount of purchases before they can really build out a really strong machine learning model that doesn't really necessarily need to know if you purchase or not. It kind of understands your buying patterns already and can predict behavior and what type of ads you respond to. So it took a little bit of time, but like they put in the necessary amount of legwork to really drive growth for another 10 years, you know, is what I've seen.
Yeah, cool.
It's interesting being back to the Meta thing. You know, Meta was so hot, or Facebook at the time. 2015 to what? 2019 was like everyone.
2020 almost.
2020 almost. Then we lost 4 years. They went back to the drawing board, came back 2023. I'm hearing great success on it again, where for 3 or 4 years everyone was crapping on them. It's crazy.
Yeah.
So Justin, like kind of taking these concepts to Amazon, right? Where, you know, you're not going to change your brand. I mean, you could, but it's the messaging. It's just kind of like refreshing it, right? Or keeping it lively, fluffing it up. What's your and I'm hearing you, like, you know, you're saying like, you know, you'll degrade over time on some of these other influencer channels. What about for
Yeah.
Amazon, or what are your thoughts on that for maybe not even Amazon? What is it for retail? Like, what are your thoughts on these other channels that aren't specifically so influencer or trendy or?
I would say like for Amazon and stuff, I think the most important thing and the metrics to look at are your repeat customer rate and LTV. There's a lot of apps now that kind of help you understand that. You know, and if you have an agency, they should have that in-house, because the thing that's going to keep you afloat is the repeat customer rate and subscribe and save. As you pour in so many new customers, you need to see like how many of these am I keeping, and kind of build that base for you on that end. In terms of changes that you can do on Amazon, there's like you can do claims, you can, you know, put in premium A+ content, all that sort of stuff. But I really think if you really want to grow on Amazon, you need to have a lot of off Amazon focus, whether it's Meta, influencer, and all that, and drive brand search volume. Brand search volume is like one of the key metrics that we look at internally. You know, I look at it on a weekly basis. How many times was Lumineux whitening strip searched versus Crest whitening strips versus all these other brands, and kind of gives me a gauge of our revenue in 3 to 6 months. You know, there is a bit of a lag on that. You know, there's a lot of other tactics that you can do on Amazon. I know you guys have a bunch of things that we've done before and are going to try out. I think those are also great, but I think they're part of the strategy. You need to have an outside marketing channel. You can't just rely on Amazon PPC and DSP, because those prices are continuing to go up too, you know. So it's still outside of Amazon is the best way to grow Amazon itself.
Give me a specific good one. Like, you know, let's give everyone a nice little hack or something that worked for you guys, whether it's run Meta ads to your storefront, or run get an influencer video, put it on Meta, send the people where, use a brand referral link. Can you give me a few how the sausage is made on a couple things? That'd be awesome.
Yeah. So for influencer marketing, I think working with a few influencers, giving them an Amazon attribution link, and either doing a story or reel with them, explaining the product, telling their whole story, showing results is very important. And like either giving them a coupon or a promo code and directing them to Amazon. That's a great strategy, because one, you have measurement, which is very hard to get on Amazon. So Amazon attribution is a very important part of it. And number two, you're getting your product out there, and people from influencers, they prefer to buy on Amazon than from the website. So I think influencers is the best place to start for anyone that's on Amazon. You know, and
how do you think your influencers back up on that? Do you look for dentists? Do you look for natural health people? What do you do?
So we work with lifestyle influencers. So like the home decor moms and stuff that are in Texas, Florida, those are a great place to start. If you're like a very natural product, there's like people like Bobby Parrish, Kyle Fitzgerald. Those are great places to start. You know, our agency's 4, 5, 6 growth for influencer marketing. They're great people to reach out to. They can kind of help you find those influencers and do a test for you. You know, for some people, those reality TV influencers perform really well. I've seen that. Never was for us, but I've seen it for like hair care products. Like, go there and work with them, you know. So there's a lot of influencers out there, and the best way to test it is through Amazon with that Amazon attribution link.
Hot take, you heard it here. Look for Real Housewives of Beverly Hills for your next hair product, guys. Come on.
It does definitely work for some people. I can't lie.
That's awesome. So is your Meta ads the same, or do you focus your Meta to your site and then you hope for a spillover? Are you sending Meta directly to Amazon these days?
No, because there's no measurement. And for Meta to work, you need to do the conversion objective. So if you're just driving clicks, like, you know, we, like as an example, for one of our Prime days, we drove, I think we spent about $250K on Meta, and we drove about $1 million in sales through Meta. We did the same exact thing for Black Friday, Cyber Monday, and a lot of the deal of the days. The results were terrible. It was like went from like a 4 times ROI to like a 0.3 or 0.7, 0.9. So it's very up and down. So you really need to do the conversion objective. And the only way to really do that is like either you build a landing page for Amazon and you optimize for like a click button there, or you send to your website and have that somewhat conversion driven, and then you have like an Amazon button there, or think there's going to be spillover, you know. So like if you want to grow these days, you need a D2C plus Amazon strategy, in my opinion.
All right, then let's go there, because I want to cram in basically an entire PhD on growing a brand in 45 minutes.
All right.
Your website, Lumineux.com, I'm assuming?
Lumineux Health. We couldn't get Lumineux.com.
Ah, damn. Well, you never know. There's always renewal. LumineuxHealth.com. Check it out. Anyone listening, I'm sure you have teeth and you want them to be naturally white. So feel free to change back to Justin for giving you some hot tips and buy some white strips or some toothpaste. Your website. How much is your website in the overall pie nowadays? Is it 20%, 50? Where is it?
It's about 5%. It's about 5%. It's definitely growing again. We started focusing on Meta again, and we expect it to have a lot of growth this year, especially since Meta is like kind of back. But you can drive a lot of traffic to the website, and then there could be a huge spillover to Amazon, which is what we're feeling. Is like, I think like more than 50% of the purchases are happening on Amazon and not really on the website, because people are just searching, learning about the brand, and then going and searching on Amazon.
So it's like a landing page, basically, and then they go out to Amazon.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a branded landing page that you can drive conversions for and make sure that the ads are working, knowing that there's going to be a spillover to Amazon.
Very interesting. I'm trying to find your website, and then, so it's LUMINEUX
health.com.
Let's show the audience here. This is a nice looking site. Did you guys put a lot of money into the site, or I mean, did you do it?
Yeah, we worked with Simplistic.
Okay.
They did like brands like Ritual Vitamins. They were really great. I don't think you need it. We spent about like 50, 60K on ours. You don't need to spend that much. You can do it for like 5, 10K. I don't think. Yeah. So I even like made a bunch of our websites myself when we first started, and those were pretty solid conversion rate websites. I think the most important thing is having good product images, and having good copy will take you like 90% of the way there.
Okay. So let's just make sure people understand that. Good product images, good copy, 90%. The other 10%, I'm assuming, is a really clean, easy layout.
Yeah, let's say like 80%. Yeah,
okay.
Like the 80-20 rule, I would say,
Yeah, your images are pretty bomb. Did you do those in-house, or was that another agency?
Yeah, that's in-house.
Wow.
Yeah, that was in-house. Yeah.
Beautiful images, man.
Their creative team is very talented. 100%.
I love the shadowing. How often? This is a big Amazon thing. How often do you mess with your images on Amazon? Let's end off with a little Amazon question. So your hero image, your lifestyle, your A+, how often do you mess with that and try new things?
Yeah, so we do like split tests once a year on it. I think you really have to like choose your lane as a brand, of like either being heavily strategic focused or heavily tactic focused. I've seen a lot of brands that like tactically are light years ahead of us, but they can't really get to that next level because they're missing the long-term strategy and marketing. So we've always gone the strategic route of trying to build things in the future and putting those building blocks, and like knowing like, we might be missing on a few tactics here and there. Sure. And we'll pick those up when we can, or we'll find someone that'll be able to do those for us. But that's not like, having a better hero image is not going to turn you into $100 million brand over your competitor. It might get you that little inch that you need to spend a little bit more on Facebook ads, but you need to focus on those high leverage things these days. I would say in 2015, Amazon is a completely different game, where because it was so like prehistoric the way things looked, having a great main image and doing all of these split tests were hugely incremental to the business and had a huge impact. So it's like the game is ever evolving. I think now more than ever, having a brand is the most important thing you can do, and you can kind of get away with a lot. Like our best selling product is 4.1 stars. It's not even 4.3. And we worked with Perpetua, and they did a Amazon Marketing Cloud analysis, and it's like basically it breaks down when they get on your product page, what do they click? And normally, I would say 20 to 25% of people on other brands that they've seen click on the product review page and read the reviews. On us, it's 3%. So it's way under normal. And that's the power of brand, is that you can get away with so much. Like, look at Chipotle. Every single one of their restaurants are 3 stars on Yelp. Same with all these other brands, you know. So once you have that name and people know you for something, you don't need to be like Mr. Perfect that a lot of these Amazon brands are, that they're 4.7 stars. The main images are perfect. Everything is exactly optimized.
Almost
so there's a lot more leeway. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But it's very hard to build a brand. It costs a lot of money as well. So
yeah, that's interesting, man, because like what you're
balance.
suggesting there is that like you've already formulated your own star rating with Chipotle.
Yeah.
You don't care that it's like for you it's a 4.5. I don't care that the average is 3 because for whatever reason, you know.
Yeah. On Amazon, you can't really get away with under a 4, but just as an example, like look at Chipotle. I'm sure you can look at a lot of those chains. They don't really have the best reviews, which is super interesting.
Mm-hmm.
I agree.
Yeah, but it even helps connect the dot. Like there's a lot of just general best practices and stuff on Amazon that are like big brands don't do. Right? The small and medium brands are like killing it with best practices. And yet, you know, they're not really taking that much share from these larger brands who have like one image, you know?
Yeah.
And their title is, you know, just very, very short.
Like, you won't buy me, you don't care.
Yeah, and I definitely believe in the best practices and everything, but to a limit. You know, if you're only focused on best practices on Amazon, you're missing like the ace in all of these other people's hands, which is a brand. You know,
yeah, right.
You're like you're using like a 5 or 6 or 7, let's say, in a deck, and you're competing against an ace. You know,
yeah, you said it. I mean, you can spend all your time on like best practices for, you know, tactical brand development, but if you're not focused on the strategic side, you know, you're only going to go so far.
Yeah, you're going to hit a wall.
Yeah,
and in order to break through plateau, you need strategy.
Yeah.
So to wrap up, what's 2024 look like? What are you focused on now? Give us a little window into that.
Yeah, so we're heavily focused on scaling meta ads. We're doing some refinements to our influencer marketing strategy, having them talk about new products, go more in depth about the science, you know, kind of doing a little bit of a revamp there. And then it's just a heavy retail focus of how do we execute in Target and Walmart and double and triple the hurdle rate, which is not an easy thing to do. I think those are the main focuses for this year, for sure.
You guys are growing up. You're a mature company now. You're talking about mature things. And as a mature company, you have an insight that the young companies don't have. And that's that hurdle that hurdle of building the brand. You're like on top of that mountain and you're like, guys, that's what you have to do. And it's a long haul and it's expensive.
And I would go ahead.
I was just going to say, it's like really helpful, Justin, to hear you talk, because I think if you're a listener to this, it's like, I really like, I'm very far away from, depending on who's listening, but I'm very far away from where you guys are. But what you are doing is, one, you're giving some people some confidence that like all these things are possible, right? The other one is that you're giving us a language to understand like this roadmap to how to get there. Right now that like I'm starting to understand more and more of the parts, I'm going to be able to create a more clear vision, and I'm going to be able to use that to then design the strategy better. Because if I were to try to do this now without kind of like hearing what you said, I'm still in sort of like the I don't know mode. Like I really don't understand like what someone said go after influencer, TikTok's blowing up, I should go do those things, but that's really just a follow the leader kind of Me Too thing.
Yeah. And I would tell you, like I was at the company from like one sale on Amazon all the way to now. So I've been through every evolution. I've tried it all. I've seen it all. I've learned from a bunch of different people and have failed hundreds of thousands of times, I would say, in order to get to where I am. And then I probably in 1 to 2 years, I was like, that guy, he was smart, but like I understand everything way better, you know? So I think just taking it step by step on a gradient scale, not trying to do one thing at a time, not getting overwhelmed, that's something that always happened to me. I would listen to podcasts and like, oh, this guy's doing $100 million in sales. He makes it seem so easy. I can tell you, like right now, I'm under more pressure and stress than I've ever been before. I'm going every day. I'm on meetings 8 hours a day. We're constantly talking about strategy. I finish the day, I'm exhausted. And so I would say like the grass is not greener on the other side. I always thought we're going to hit $100 million in sales. My life is going to be easy. Everything's going to be good. And I'm like, no, it got worse.
Right. It's
somehow.
Taller and thicker. It's not greener. It's just taller and thicker. Yeah. Totally.
Yeah. So you need to enjoy the process, which is something I don't like to do. But enjoy the process.
You're not good at it. Justin's not good at enjoying.
Yeah, I'm not. I enjoy winning. I love winning. That's my favorite thing to do. But enjoying the process is something that you need to have a lot of patience. And I think as you show to yourself that going through this process leads to results, you start to enjoy it more, and not like comparing yourself to other brands, which is something I tend to do. Wouldn't recommend doing that. I would just take it step by step and focus on building something with bricks, not like wood that's going to break down or whatever.
Yeah, hot air.
And hot air, I think, is a better word, because most houses are made out of wood anyway. So that's not the best analogy, but hot air, which a lot of brands are. And, kind of enjoy just building a brand and standing for something and having a purpose. Those are the most important things.
Mm-hmm.
That's a huge, that's my big takeaway here. Just for anyone listening that is still trying to put their thoughts together. My big takeaway is, Justin, you and your father and your family and people that work for you started out with the intention to build a brand, not build a product, not sell a gimmick. It was always from the beginning to build something. And maybe you didn't know what it was, but you knew it was something that meant for formulation, quality. There was science behind it from the beginning. And that has ridden you through all these years. And that's what I take from it.
Yeah. Yeah. For me, whenever I'm like stressed out about something, and it's weird because I'm such a data geek, I look at our repeat customer rate and look at like every week now, like 20,000 people are buying our product that are customers that have already bought it. And those are the people we're helping, that always calms me down, knowing that we really do have something special.
Yeah, right on.
And, for other people, it could be reading the Amazon review. So you need to find that thing that you can look at.
That's a lot of people, man, every week, right? Because you don't need to buy your product every week. So if it's 15 to 20K per week, right?
Yeah, new repeat customers. Yeah. So if you just need to find that thing that shows you that you're making an impact and all this stress and everything you're putting yourself through is worth it. Because, if you continue to do that and you're persistent over time, like you're going to get a really great result.
Mm-hmm.
And you're never going to be satisfied with where you're at. That's another thing I'm taking away. Like, you're never going to be like, yes, I made it. As soon as you hit that level, you're already, well, how do I get to the next one? So don't expect satisfaction.
Well, there's some people that are satisfied with getting to a certain place. It depends on who you are.
Our audience are not the 9-to-5ers. They're not the cubicle.
Yeah.
Drew and I know these are hustlers, and they're trying to make something at 3 a.m. This is how we are.
Yeah. But what satisfies me is whenever I talk to a customer, we do focus groups and you kind of hear the story and the impact that you've had on someone's life. That's what you started it for.
That's right. Yeah.
You might have been trying to make a lot of money, but if you really did it right, you created a product to help people. And that's the thing to always focus on, is like, remind yourself what you're doing this for. I think really has a huge impact. And whenever you're through those rough times, it calms you down.
Mm-hmm.
Beautiful spot to end. Okay, awesome. Well, I got to say that this one was even better than the last, and I'm excited for everyone.
That's good.
Yeah, and just keep doing incredible things, and maybe we'll revisit this next year and see what happened in 2024.
Yeah, I'm sure I'll have a lot more interesting.
Yeah, I actually really like this. I like this annual check-in, Justin, because I took the notes. We didn't really go over them, but I took the notes, and your guys' mix was 70-30 Amazon retail this time last year.
Yeah.
This doesn't have to go in the recording, but like, what are you guys now?
So we're 60 Amazon, 35-ish retail, and 5 D2C.
Yeah.
So it's gone down a little bit.
Based growth.
Yeah. And I would say we're hoping to be 50-50 Amazon online and then retail. That would be like our optimized place where we're growing both and have good retail sales and all that.
It's got to be hard, right? Because you're capturing new shoppers in all these other channels, and then you're still growing your branded traffic on Amazon. So it's like, it's constantly.
Yeah, they inch forward, they go back, they go
right.
up, they go down. There's a lot of anomalies that we've been seeing too with sales, and at a certain point, you can't measure everything. So you kind of just need to see trends over.
Don't get me started about Amazon reporting, man. Oh my God, I know it in and out. I know it in and out.
Yeah. I know you do. I've seen your work.
Also, Justin, don't forget, data makes more sense when you look at it long term than you look at it short term.
No, 100%.
So 100%. People are always like, why is my ACOS so bad today? It's like, dude, you're today pointless. Leave it alone.
Yeah, you can't look at it like that.
Yeah.
100%.
That's just a microcosm.
I want that little clip right there for all of our clients. Don't look at it like that.
Yeah, don't look at it like that.
Justin said, don't look at it like that. This is what we said. Cool.
Yeah, Justin, I agree with you guys. I agree. All right.
Again, thanks again. Have a good one. And
thank you.
We'll talk very soon, buddy.
Thank you so much for having me. I had a great time.
Cool. Awesome.